I used to think I had everything figured out. My life was structured, planned, college, job, a stable relationship. It was the kind of love that looked good on paper. He was kind, dependable, the kind of person you build a life with. But even as I smiled through our photos and family dinners, something always felt missing. We didn't fight. We didn't really talk either. We just existed side by side, two people living in sync, but not in connection. Then I met her. It started with a conversation, casual, innocent. We were at the same company orientation. She asked if I needed help finding the conference room. Her voice was warm, her laugh easy, and she had this way of looking directly into your eyes when she spoke. That was the first time in a long while I felt noticed. Really noticed. We ended up sitting next to each other. That afternoon, we laughed about things that didn't matter. But somehow it mattered. A week later, we had lunch. Then coffee. Then late messages about everything and nothing. She remembered the smallest things I said, asked questions about my day that no one else did. She made me feel interesting, even important. Every conversation chipped away at the walls I didn't know I had built. My partner would ask how my day went, and I'd give a polite answer. But with her, I shared the real version. The exhaustion. The little triumphs. The doubts. The loneliness I hadn't admitted to myself. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was something I started looking forward to more than I should have. There was no grand plan. No hidden motive. It just happened. Slowly, then all at once. One night, we stayed at the office late. The power had gone out and only emergency lights were on. I could hear her typing beside me. I looked over, and she smiled. That moment felt heavier than it should have. That smile stayed with me the whole way home. I tried to rationalize it. Told myself it's okay to enjoy someone's company. I hadn't done anything wrong. I told myself that twice. Then 3 times. But I started pulling away from my partner. Nothing obvious, just fewer words, more excuses. I blamed work. I blamed stress. But the truth was, my attention was elsewhere. It wasn't physical. Not yet. But emotionally, I had crossed a line. I knew it. And I told myself, as long as I didn't act on it, it wasn't real. But the guilt had already started to grow. Every time she texted, my heart jumped. Every time my partner asked who it was, I lied without blinking. Small lies. Just her name, nothing more. But each one was a crack in the life I thought I was building. I didn't know where this was going. I didn't want to think about it. All I knew was I hadn't felt this alive in years. And that scared me more than anything. The first time it happened, it was so subtle, I almost convinced myself it didn't mean anything. We were walking back to the parking lot after a late meeting. She laughed at something I said, and her hand brushed against mine. I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. I remember the silence after that. How heavy it felt, like we both knew something had shifted, even if no one said it out loud. I told myself I was overthinking it. But I wasn't. The way she looked at me was different now, and I looked back the same way. The conversations grew longer, deeper. We talked about things I hadn't even told my partner, dreams, fears, regrets. She told me about her past relationships, how she hated feeling like an option. I told her I knew that feeling well, even though I was the one already chosen by someone else. It wasn't just emotional anymore. The tension grew until it felt impossible to ignore. One night, I dropped her off at her place. I should have just said goodnight. But I didn't. She leaned in slightly, and I didn't stop her. Our lips met, quick, hesitant, unsure, but real. In that moment, every justification I had built came crashing down. I had crossed the line I promised myself I wouldn't. The guilt hit instantly. I drove home in silence, the weight of that kiss pressing against my chest. My partner was asleep when I got in. I looked at him and felt like a stranger in my own life. I had no idea how to act normal anymore. The smallest things started to feel like lies, sitting beside him on the couch, answering a simple "How was your day?" even holding his hand. But despite the guilt, I didn't stop. The messages became more secretive. The meetups more frequent. We were reckless. Never in public. Always careful. But emotionally, it was chaos. Some days, I hated myself. Other days, I just wanted to be around her, no matter the cost. She made me feel wanted in a way I hadn't felt in years. Like I mattered. Like I was more than just someone's routine. I started avoiding my partner. Picking fights over nothing. Coming home late. I blamed it on work, on being tired. He started noticing. Asked if something was wrong. I lied again. I got good at it, too good. And that scared me. Because I wasn't just hurting him. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Someone I wouldn't have respected a year ago. There was no plan to leave. No talk of a future. It wasn't love. It was addiction, pure, selfish, consuming. She gave me an escape, not a solution. And deep down, I think we both knew that. But neither of us had the strength to stop. I was cheating, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Every part of me was split in two. I told myself it wasn't who I was. But it was exactly who I had become. It didn't unravel all at once. It started with small shifts, missed calls I didn't return, questions I couldn't answer without hesitation, and moments where my silence said more than any lie could. He noticed. Of course he did. One night, he asked directly, "Is there someone else?" I froze. My face gave it away before my mouth could deny it. That moment, everything cracked wide open. I didn't confess everything. Just enough to make it real. Enough to destroy what we had. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He just looked at me like I was a stranger. And maybe I was. He asked me why. I didn't have a good answer. I felt unseen, I said. I didn't know how to tell you. I was unhappy. But nothing I said could undo the damage. Trust doesn't just bend. It breaks. After that night, the silence between us grew unbearable. He slept on the couch. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Every sound in the house felt loud. Every memory stung. The warmth in our home turned cold. Friends noticed. Family asked questions. I deflected. I couldn't say it out loud. Couldn't admit I was the one who broke something people spend years trying to protect. She didn't stick around either. Whatever we had, it couldn't survive the weight of reality. The affair, once thrilling, turned sour. She said I was too caught in guilt, too messy, too uncertain. She wasn't wrong. When she walked away, I didn't fight it. I didn't have it in me to fight for anything anymore. I had lost them both. And worse, I had done it to myself. That's when the loneliness really sank in. Not the kind that comes from being alone, but the kind that follows you even when you're surrounded by people. I went to work, answered emails, smiled when I had to. But inside, I was unraveling. I'd catch myself replaying conversations, trying to spot the moment I could have chosen differently. But the past doesn't negotiate. It just sits there, heavy and unchanging. I started avoiding mirrors. I hated who I saw. I wasn't the victim. I couldn't paint myself as misunderstood or emotionally neglected anymore. I had choices, and I made the wrong ones. Not once. Over and over. I betrayed someone who trusted me without question. And for what? A feeling. A rush. An illusion. There's no handbook for what comes after betrayal. No clean ending. He moved out eventually. No big goodbye, just a note on the counter and keys in the dish. I stood there, reading it, and all I could think was, this is it. This is what the end feels like. Quiet. Empty. Final. That night I sat alone, not because I had no one, but because I had pushed everyone away. Not with force, but with choices. With lies. With silence. And in that silence, I finally heard myself for the first time. Not the version I told people. The real one. The one who broke her own heart trying to chase what she never even needed. Time didn't heal everything. It just gave me space to see things clearly. The silence that once haunted me became necessary. I stopped running from it and started listening to what it was trying to teach me. I had always blamed circumstances, timing, other people, but the truth was harder to admit. I was the problem. Not because I was evil or cruel, but because I was selfish, afraid, and unwilling to confront my own emptiness. In the months that followed, I didn't try to jump into anything new. I couldn't. I was too tired of pretending, too tired of saying the right things while doing the wrong ones. I started therapy. Not to fix what had already happened, it was too late for that, but to understand why I had let it happen in the first place. And what I found was ugly, but honest. I had used someone else's affection to fill a space that wasn't their responsibility. I had confused attention with love, escape with freedom. I reached out to him once. Not to win him back, but to apologize with no strings attached. I told him I didn't expect forgiveness, and I still don't. But he deserved to hear the truth without excuses. He listened, said very little, and when the call ended, I cried for the first time in months. Not out of guilt, but out of grief for who I used to be and for what I had thrown away. I don't hate the woman I was. I understand her now. She was tired, unfulfilled, too scared to speak up, so she made choices that felt easier in the moment. But easy doesn't mean right. She thought she could avoid pain by chasing something new. All she did was multiply it. I don't carry shame anymore, but I carry awareness. And that's heavier than I expected. Eventually, I met someone new. But I was different. I didn't hide my flaws. I didn't play roles. I was honest about what I'd done and what I'd learned. And strangely, that honesty didn't push them away. It built something real. Not perfect, but honest. That's what I needed all along, not romance, not excitement. Just truth. The kind that doesn't need to be hidden behind passwords or half answers. I've also learned that love isn't supposed to feel like a rescue. It's not there to save you from yourself. If you're lost, love won't be a map. You have to do the hard work of finding your own direction. Only then can love be something shared instead of something stolen. Before marriage, I thought love was about feeling chosen. Now I know it's about choosing, every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And if you can't choose someone fully, you owe it to them to let them go. I learned that too late, but I learned it. And if nothing else, that lesson will stay with me forever. Not as regret, but as a reminder of what not to repeat.